The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. Happy Monday. It is March 11th. We've got 4 games on the docket. Going to talk about those really quick here. Of course, 11 more games on Tuesday. We'll be talking about those as well. This show is sponsored by NorthStar Bets. They offer early odds on the next day's NHL games, so you can check them out via the link in the description below. That has helped us out a ton on this show this season. We've been looking ahead all season long and have been doing pretty good as a result. My name is Andy MacNeil. I'm your host, and I am here on weekdays to provide NHL projections, betting advice, and strategies to help you make informed bets throughout the NHL season. We'll get into a quick schedule breakdown right away here. Of course, the rest column tells you how many days rest teams have heading into their games on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The load column gives you a little bit more context, tells you about whether teams are playing the second half of back-to-back or 3 games in 4 nights, 4 games in 6 nights, etc. Maybe 5 games in 7 or 6 games in 9. But I won't spend a whole lot of time on that. You can take a screenshot and look at it a little bit later. I've already factored this into my handicapping, of course, as I do before every show. So let's get into it. Like I said, we've got 4 games on the docket for Monday, March 11th. First up, it's the St. Louis Blues at the Boston Bruins. Now, Boston has a lighter stretch of games coming up, starting with Monday's matchup against the Blues. They will travel to Montreal later this week, but they're in the process of playing 7 of 8 games at home before they play 8 of their final 11 regular season games on the road. So big stretch for the Bruins right now. St. Louis, they've pretty much fallen right out of the wild card race in the Western Conference. They've lost 8 of their last 11 games. The model says there's nearly a 67% chance that the Bruins will win Monday's game. That lines up closely with the market. New Jersey at New York. We've got the Devils taking on the Rangers, and the Devils have gone 1-2 under interim head coach Travis Green on that recent 3-game home stretch that they just had. And now they'll be on the road for the next 4 games, starting with this matchup versus the Rangers, in which they will see Jonathan Quick, not Igor Shesterkin, and Adam Fox will be a game time decision, but they should still be underdogs regardless. The Rangers could be as high as a minus 139 favorite, according to the model, if Fox is indeed in the lineup. Of course, that line will shift quite a bit if he is not, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough to create any betting value on the New Jersey Devils. Next up, we've got the Washington Capitals at the Winnipeg Jets. Rick Bowness called Saturday's 5-0 loss to the Canucks the worst game that the Jets have played in his final 2 years, or in his 2 years as head coach. So needless to say, Winnipeg should put forth a better effort versus the Capitals on Monday. But with that said, Washington, they've been pretty scrappy lately. They've won 7 of their last 10 games, and I would not overestimate the Jets' chances of winning this game, which the model puts at 64.8% or minus 184. The Islanders at the Los Angeles Kings. Ilya Sorokin will start for the Islanders, who are looking for their 7th win in a row. New York is currently tied with the Red Wings for the second wild card spot with 72 points. Los Angeles, they've been up and down as of late, but they still ought to be priced around minus 140 because this is the second half of a back-to-back for the Islanders. One other note of interest here this morning, as it looks like Canucks goaltender Thatcher Demko will miss some time, but luckily Vancouver only has 2 games on this week's schedule. Now moving on to March 12th, Tuesday, we've got a matchup between the San Jose Sharks. They're in Philadelphia taking on the Flyers, and head coach John Tortorella is not going to be behind the bench for this one. He's been suspended for 2 games after being ejected on Saturday in Tampa Bay against the Lightning, and after being decimated by the Lightning on Saturday, you would think the Flyers will still be primed to beat the Sharks on Tuesday, even though they won't have their bench boss behind the bench. So my model says the Flyers should be a minus 235 favorite against the Sharks at home on Tuesday. Columbus at Montreal. The Blue Jackets have gotten some great goaltending from Daniil Tarasov recently in his last 9 games, dating back to January 25th. Tarasov posted a .921 save percentage and saved the Blue Jackets approximately 5 goals above expected per Evolving Hockey. But it looks like Elvis Merzlikins is going to be in goal on Tuesday, and that means that Montreal will have an edge in the crease, assuming Sam Montembeault is in goal. But while Montembeault has been pretty good for the Habs this season, he does rank 35th in goals saved above expected since the All-Star break, and Montreal has just 4 wins in the 15 games during that stretch. Detroit at Buffalo. The Sabres have been getting some great goaltending from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, currently ranks fifth in the NHL in goals saved above expected, and that has made Buffalo a very tough team to bet against. He's posted a 916 save percentage year to date and has won 8 of his last 12 starts, making the Sabres, like I said, a really tough team to bet against as of late, despite their, comparatively poor play. If we compare them to other teams across the league, the Sabres have been well below average in terms of their underlying metrics. But I still think because of the goaltending situation here, this one is a coin flip. New York Rangers at the Carolina Hurricanes. I've got some betting interest in this one. I know these two teams are very close in the standings, but they are not close in a lot of other categories. For example, Carolina ranks first in even strength expected goals percentage and shot attempts percentage since the start of February, while New York ranks 27th and 24th in those categories, respectively. Tuesday's game against the Hurricanes will be the sixth and final time this season that the Rangers play a road game after playing the day before. They're in action on Monday against the Devils, of course, and they are 4-1 in this situation year to date, but they've also never been an obvious underdog in any of those previous games, and they will be an obvious underdog on Tuesday. Jonathan Quick is going to get the start against the Devils, so that means Igor is going to be fresh at a face off against Carolina on Tuesday, but I still like the Canes on the money line at minus 139 to win one unit with or without Jake Gensel. I do not have him penciled into Tuesday's game because it's more likely that he will play later in the week after just coming off the injured reserve on Sunday. Another game that I've got some betting interest in, the Pittsburgh Penguins at the Ottawa Senators. Pittsburgh has scored 2 or fewer goals in 5 of its last 7 games. The Penguins were shut out 3 times and held to just 1 goal in 2 of those games. Pittsburgh is 7-9 straight up as road favorites this season, and they weren't even a favorite the last time they played against the Senators back on December 23rd, and when they were playing a lot better than they are right now. And they had Jake Gensel in the lineup for that game too. Ottawa still won the game 5-4 in overtime. The Senators, they've been playing pretty poorly. They've got a couple defensemen listed as day-to-day, but it looks like a buy low spot on the Senators here, in my opinion. They've lost 7 in a row. 6 of those games were on the road, though, and Ottawa is an exceptionally bad road team. I mean, the Sens are 8-21 straight up on the road this season, and they've lost badly in all of their longer road trips. The Senators went 0-5 on their December trip. They went 0-5 on their January trip, and they've lost 7 out of 9 straight on or 7 straight on the road, and 7 of their last 9 on the road. So they should play better at home. They've got a 17-16 record straight up. Not great, but the Penguins, they've gone 12-19 straight up on the road this season. They've lost 9 of their last 11 games away from home. Ottawa, they're a tough team to figure out, but I'll risk 3/4 of a unit here on the Senators at plus 102 and hope that they pull off the win because my model thinks they should be priced at minus 106. Sorry, not 3/4 of a unit. It's actually a half unit play on the Senators. So I just want to correct that right off the bat. Half unit on the Senators at plus 102. Next up, a little bit of interest here in this one, but I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger here. Minnesota hosting the Coyotes, and the Wild closed at minus 140 in Arizona on Thursday. They won 5-2. I thought they should have closed as a bigger favorite. I was happy to grab them at minus 125, but I don't feel as lucky to find them at minus 182 here, even if the model does say there's some value. But absolutely wild scenes in Nashville over the weekend as the Preds tied the game, sent it to overtime, but the Wild would pull their goalie to go 4-on-3 in overtime with the empty net, and they cashed in on the gamble with a beautiful no-look pass from Matt Zuccarello to Matt Boldy. But if they had lost that game with their goalie pulled in overtime, they actually would have ended up with no points, not the typical loser point for the overtime loss, because that's a rule that I guess a lot of us did not know about. That if you pull your goaltender in overtime, you better win because you will not get that extra point if you do in fact lose. But anyways, ballsy decision by head coach John Hines. But then again, the Wild don't really have anything to lose. They're 6 points back of Nashville for the second wild card spot, and the Predators have an extra game in hand. So makes sense that they did that, but something to consider going forward as the Wild could put their bets at risk. If you're going to back the Wild, and they end up in overtime, maybe they do it again. And that could be a dicey situation to be in if you are backing the Wild to win straight up. But yeah, anyways, Arizona, they've lost 17 of their last 20 games, including a 14-game losing streak. They've gone 3-3 straight up in their last 6 games. But considering they lost 2 games to the Blackhawks during that stretch, including a 7-4 loss on Sunday, I don't think they really deserve any praise. The Wild, they ranked fourth in even strength expected goals percentage since the start of February. The Coyotes ranked 25th in that category. The gap becomes even larger when you factor in all situations. So yeah, Minnesota should be a minus 189 favorite according to the model. Huge matchup between the Florida Panthers and the Dallas Stars. It would not surprise anybody if the Panthers and Stars were the last 2 teams standing come June. So this matchup will have a lot of eyeballs on it because it's a potential preview of the Stanley Cup final. I've got Florida ranked higher in terms of power ratings, but the Stars are right there and they've got home ice advantage. So the model says Dallas should be a minus 109 favorite. Next up, we've got a matchup of two of the league's worst defensive teams as the Ducks are in Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. Now, Chicago has won just 3 games since January 22nd. They've gone 3-14 straight up. They beat the Senators in early February. But other than that, they've only managed to beat the Coyotes. They won 2 games against the Arizona Coyotes recently. They've been one of the worst defensive teams, but they've been the worst offensive team by a mile. They've scored just 2.14 goals per 60 minutes in all situations since the beginning of February. Only 3 teams have been worse on defense than Chicago, but surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, one of those teams is Anaheim. They've allowed 4.17 goals per 60 minutes since the start of February. Only San Jose and Arizona have been worse on aggregate. Anaheim's been better on offense. Minus 109, I think, looks like a fair price, but I wouldn't be interested in taking either side in this matchup unless you're getting it at a big plus money price, and that's just not the case right now. I'm certainly not going to recommend laying chalk on the Ducks, who rank 32nd in expected goals percentage at even strength since the All-Star break. Colorado is in Calgary taking on the Flames. The Avalanche have won 8 of its last 12 games straight up, but they've got a new look post trade deadline with Casey Middleset and Sean Walker, and they did not look very good in their game versus Minnesota over the weekend. That said, they just lost Logan O'Connor for the season. Both are Terry Lehkonen and Ross Colton are listed day to day with an illness. So who knows if that's making its way through the locker room right now. They didn't play great versus Minnesota on Friday. Like I said, they just owned 40% of the expected goals at even strength in a 2-1 overtime win. But of course, Calgary has dropped 3 of the last 4, after winning 5 in a row. And it looks like this group is just kind of running out of steam here. They lost 5-1 and 7-2 against the Panthers and the Hurricanes. That was a back-to-back. This is their 3rd game in 4 days. Not just their 3rd game in 4 days, but their 3rd game in 4 days against one of the league's top teams. My model says the Avs should be a minus 149 favorite if they ice a full lineup on Tuesday. And finally, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Seattle Kraken. And the Kraken, they're as mediocre as they come. They're just riding really good goaltending right now with Joey Decord ranking 8th in goals saved above expected year to date. The Kraken ranked 31st in goals per 60 minutes since the start of February. Only the Blackhawks have been worse. And Vegas, they've been brutal defensively, allowing more goals per 60 than all but 5 teams since the start of Feb. But, Noah Hannafin should help stabilize that a bit. And their offense is only going to continue to get better now that Jack Eichel has been back for 3 games, and they added a 20-goal scorer in Anthony Mantha to the mix. So still have a little bit of faith in the Vegas Golden Knights, but not enough to warrant a bet here. But that pretty much does it for Monday's episode of the Puck Portfolio. 2 games for Tuesday's big slate, at least versus these early odds. Might find some value later on when some more options open up. But I've got a bet on the Carolina Hurricanes at minus 139 to win 1 unit, and a bet on the Ottawa Senators at plus 102 to win half unit. So those are 2 money line bets that I like for Tuesday's NHL games. If you have not already, please drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the Canada Sports Betting YouTube channel if you have not already for some reason. We'll be back on Tuesday with another episode of the Puck Portfolio. But until then, good luck with your bets. I'll see you on Tuesday.